Welcome to my nightmare.
All right, what's up? What's up? Welcome back, my fellow spooky folks. I'm your host, Troy Ryan, and this is Man of Horror, my horror pod where I talk all things scary. Now, today I wanted to introduce another new segment to the show. That segment is going to be the Throwback Thriller. So, with that being said, today is a Stephen King centric episode. I'm going to share my top 5 Stephen King films, and then I'm going to review and rate the Stephen King adapted film, The Mist. That's the Throwback Thriller for this week. I love The Mist. It's like one of my favorites. I love Stephen King too, obviously. So this is going to be a good time. So let's go ahead and dive right in.
I'll kill you all. I'm every nightmare you ever had. I am your worst dream come true. I'm everything you ever were afraid of.
All right. So in 5th place, we have Gerald's Game. This one is on Netflix, and God, it is so fucking good. Like, I remember when I first watched it, the opening, 15, 20 minutes or so, it lays the groundwork for the film so well, and it, like, instantly hooked me. I immediately wanted to see more, and I wanted to know where this was going. So, real quick, spoiler alert, the film is about a couple who go on vacation to a cabin in the middle of nowhere because, of course, and, they go for a weekend to basically spice up their marriage. The woman ends up handcuffed to a bed because they're like, trying to do a little bit of role play, and the guy takes some Viagra. The woman is a bit uncomfortable, so, they start to, it kind of leads to an argument, basically, all while she's still handcuffed. So they're like arguing, and she's like handcuffed to the bed, like, hey, okay, well, let's just maybe, and the guy has a heart attack and dies. And that's kind of like how the film starts. So that should give you an idea of how wild this movie is and the journey of it. And the things that start to kind of take place are it's wild. Like, honestly, I'll say this movie keeps you on your toes. And what I love about it is like the psychological implications. It's like ultimately the woman starts to have hallucinations and stuff. And I'll leave it there. Definitely a great watch. It's on Netflix. Carla Gugini. I feel like I'm not saying that last name right, but whatever. She is the main, the star of the film. So it's an amazing watch. Definitely do yourself a favor and give it a watch. If you're a Stephen King fan, you should know about it and have seen this film or even read the book. But if you haven't,
shame.
Yeah. In 4th place, The Shining. A classic horror film if I've ever fucking seen one. Like, it's so funny to think that upon like the original release, Stephen King wasn't fucking with this film. It like took him a while to open up to it. And I guess maybe I can understand if I wrote the book and I maybe had a different vision for a lot of the way things were executed, but ultimately it's fucking Stanley Kubrick. Like, come on, like, like, come on. But it's it just has a lot of amazing, iconic imagery, right? Like from the blood in the elevator to the weirdo twins in the hallway, here's Johnny through the door, the maze at the end, just almost like the whole entire movie visually is a masterpiece. And I think what I love the most is how things are happening like consistently throughout the movie, and yet somehow it still feels like a slow burn, right? Like I think like and shout out to the sequel, Doctor Sleep. But like when I watch this, by the climax, I've always immediately felt the need to kind of go back and like rewatch, see if I missed anything. Like, it's amazing. Definitely, if you're a horror fan or a Stephen King fan, you should have seen it. But if you haven't,
Shame.
yeah. All right. So next up in 3rd place, we have another classic, Carrie. I feel like this movie is every kid who's been picked on's dream, right? Like, you get picked on, bullied, tormented, and then one day you discover that you have this amazing ability, and you end up using it on the assholes who bullied, tormented, and picked on you. It is crazy because I never looked at Carrie as the villain or the killer. I always looked at her as the victim and the asshole kids as the villain. And it makes sense, you know, to again look at her as the killer or whatever, considering what she does, I guess. And just even the final images, like that whole classic shot of her walking around with the bloodstained dress and the crazy looking ass wide eyes, like it's she's totally the killer in those moments. But fuck those kids, man, because it's like all their fault. Like Carrie just wanted to go to the dance and have a good time, and just assholes, man. I hate bullies. And honestly, for me, I love when bullies get their just desserts in horror movies. So they deserve whatever the fuck they get. Shout out to Sissy Spacek too, because her representation is genuinely iconic. Like I don't think anyone else could have done that movie. Like not no one. She certain roles some people are born to play, and Sissy Spacek was born to play Carrie. This one is so fucking classic that if you haven't seen it, then I'm not even gonna give you the shame bell. You just might be a bad person. In second place, the film that I'm reviewing today, The Mist. I won't say too much, because I'm reviewing the film as well, but I have to say, Stephen King put his whole ass in this fucking book. Like, whole ass, foot, arm, like, he put everything into this book, and the film is just as fucking good. Like, it's the whole idea of, like, human nature, right? Like, there's this crazy mysterious force outside, but what's even scarier is human behavior. It's just written so fucking smartly. And again, I'm a huge Stephen King fan, so to think that the idea came to him, and that's just how writing is, because that's where I get ideas from myself sometimes. But he got the idea from being in the grocery store after a storm. And then, like he said, he like, if I'm not mistaken, like he mentioned that he had just kind of saw there's like a scene where there's like these mini pterodactyl bird things, and they fly around the store in the movie, and he had kind of in his head saw that scene, and it went from there. And I just think that's so fucking dope, man. And it's true, the whole thing with human nature. It's true when you scare people enough, um, they turn into monsters. And why I think I love The Mist is because of the almost feeling of complete hopelessness. Actually, that's exactly what it is, because there's monsters outside and there's monsters inside, so there's nowhere safe, and that feeling is just prevalent as fuck throughout the whole, like, from start to finish. Um, yeah, it's just like a genuine feeling of hopelessness. I watched this movie like maybe a million times. I could still watch it. Um, it just feel totally the same. I'll leave it there because I'm reviewing the film as well. And so, lastly, in first place, number one, all fucking time favorite Stephen King movie. You should have known this was coming. It. Ugh. It is a fucking classic. Like, I love every adaptation. The book, the 90s TV show, or 90s TV movie, and the late 2000s teens version, like, all of it. Like, there's even, recently there's been like talk that there's a TV show adaptation that's coming that's going to be about the city of Derry itself, and I am so fucking here for it because Derry is just a wild ass town anyway. Like, even with everything that we have seen, it's worse than that. To think like in the books, like the books are yeah, the It books are something else, but the films and everything, like the adaptations represented so fucking well, and like Pennywise the clown literally made me piss on myself when I was a kid. Like, not even kidding. I remember seeing the first one, and like I'm certain I peed on myself that night, and I'm pretty sure I did like for almost 2 weeks straight. Like, and it's just like, with this one, it's a very similar feeling of hopelessness. Like, like from The Mist, The thing is, again, you mentioned Derry. Derry's a fucked up town, you know. Um, the kids are having trouble at home. They live in a fucked up town. There's bullies at school, and then there's this demon thing that's trying to kill you. And then they're not regular bullies. These motherfuckers were cutting kids, and like, you know what I'm saying, like that old like 50s greasers kind of shit. Like I don't even know if that was real or not, but that's fucked up. Um, but it's just added to the deeper feeling of hopelessness, like really just dread. It is a dreadful fucking movie, and again, nowhere safe. And I think what I liked about it is, in a sense, is representation of life, because life can feel like that sometimes and nowhere safe and everything's just fucking dreadful. And what the characters in this have to do as children and as adults is remember who they are, and well, or learn who they are rather, and fight it and deal with their fears. So it's just like that's life. You have to deal with those things sometimes, and you have to get past the quote unquote Pennywise. And to do that, you have to go into yourself and fight your fears. God damn it, Stephen King, fucking amazing writer. Shit. Um, if you haven't seen any of the adaptations, you totally deserve the bell.
Shame!
We'll tear your soul apart.
All right, so that was my top 5 Stephen King films. Now let's go ahead and get into this movie review for the throwback thriller, The Mist. Like I said before, I fucking love this goddamn movie. It's so good. I have to start by saying, of course, Stephen King is a fucking treasure. Like, that's just it. He's a huge inspiration for me personally as a writer and as a aspiring curator of horror. um, and it's just like what I love about Stephen King's work is that he lays a groundwork really well, if that makes sense, right? Like within the first 10 to 20 minutes of his movies are books and things like that, even no matter the length, what the fuck. Oh, okay, so this is what the fuck this is about. Like, it's not like, and even when there's twist and mystery, I feel like he respects his audience enough to give us the gist and then take us on a journey. And so, okay, and just to dive into this one, one of my favorite things is the imagery. The visual representation of some of these like otherworldly, other dimension beings is just pure fucking terror, right? Like, the thing at the giant fucking thing, like I don't even know what to call it. It's like a fucking like a white space buffalo with 40 legs. Like that shit, that image, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And just towards the end, it's burned in my mind when I think about The Mist. But to take away from that really quick and just start at the beginning of the movie, the whole opening scene, like how I said Stephen King, he introduces things really well. The opening scene is done so good. At the grocery store, we get the fact that there's a storm. We understand that these two neighbors don't really like each other, but they need help to get to the store, And I love when shit hits the fan and the man is just like running into the store, something in the mist, like just like screaming, like it's just like this perfect, like the tone of it, the timing of it, it was terrifying, and I love another thing that this movie does really well is it represents closed-minded. Like the whole point of it is just human nature. So, um, it represents closed-minded characters really well in the beginning of the movie. Like I was so fucking annoyed by most of the people in like the first. By the end, I'm still pretty annoyed with most of the people because of them following the crazy religious bitch. But in the beginning, I was annoyed for the whole non-believer thing. Like that's one of my biggest pet peeves in films and movies is a character who just doesn't believe or is so fucking closed-minded. Um, and in real life, I don't like that either. Um, and it's like, cause who the fuck are you to be like, oh no, this thing doesn't exist. This thing can't be real. Who are you? Like genuinely, who are you to say that? Um, and I feel like everything that happened to them in that back storage room, like that kid who got fucking pulled out the goddamn store by those fucking giant tentacles, deserved it because he was a dick too. He was like, "Yeah, you guys are fucking pussies. There's nothing back here." Yeah, all right. When that shit dragged his ass, I was like, yes, hell yeah. I clapped because it was like, that's what the fuck you get. And the old fucking hillbilly guy was like, well, you should have said what you meant. I didn't know what you meant. It's like, motherfuck. When he punched him, I was so happy because he was like, what do you mean say what I meant? I said what I meant. I heard something outside. But that's fucking all you needed to know are here. Oh, God. Um, it just represents human nature really accurately from like all facets, from even like the super naive, because there's like the woman who's like, no, people aren't gonna go crazy and start following the religious lady. She's like preaching, and people are talking to the side like, yeah, we might need to get the fuck out of here because she's gonna turn these people. And that's true. When people are afraid of things like that, they look to something to, I guess, guide them in a sense, right? And that's how you end up with cult leaders and cults. You know what I'm saying? Some people just genuinely need direction at some points, and if they're vulnerable enough, bam, there you go. And so it's like the one lady, she's super fucking naive. No, oh my god, no, humans are basically good. We would never. That's crazy. Next day, literal next fucking day. um, and I have to say too, I do love, because I'm personally working on a script that involves religion. I love religion related horror because religion to me is like mythology. Um, I'm a myth buff. Or a mythology buff more so, I guess. That sounds like that's so weird to say all together. Mythology buff. Okay. Anyway. um, but yeah, and some stories there's like gaps sometimes, and so I like try to fill them in myself. And so I think that's just kind of like what you do when you're writing religious horror. And I like what this was attempting, like what the lady was saying, and that's the thing about it, because they didn't understand what was going on, they didn't know. So it was like, it wasn't just that people needed to be guided or directed, it was that she was making sense based on what they were seeing. So um it was just really interesting, her take on things, and the Bible verses she was bringing up, like, and how it related to some of the shit that was happening, as if this was the end times, just for, and not to say that they didn't open up hell or whatever the case is, right? But the army came and saved everything, and it was like done. So um nevertheless, it's really interesting. And that lady, she's like probably one of my, I think I need to do a list of like my top like 5 or 10 Stephen King villains, because she's totally fucking on it. Miss Carmody is fucking nuts. The bitch is nuts. Um, but yeah, overall, again, this is one of my favorites. One, like, in my top 5 Stephen King films. It also has one of my top 10 favorite horror movie kills, and one of my top 5 favorite horror movie endings. Um, so it's like an ultimate fucking dream for me. And like the ending of this movie, and one, it's different from the book, but the ending of this movie is pure dread. Like, yo, s- they so they drive around. I'm just gonna spoiler alert. They drive around. It's like 4 people, 5 people technically, because there's like the main guy, this woman that they met, and this old couple in the backseat, and his son, and they drive for at least maybe a state away or something, and all they see is like this mist and this fog and these crazy ass creatures, and they finally come across the thing that I mentioned before, like the big giant white like fucking deer or whatever the fuck it is, and after that, they just like, okay, yeah, what's the point of this shit? Like, so they decide to kill themselves. But there's 5 people and 4 bullets. So the man kills the old couple, the lady, and his son, and gets out of the car, to scream and yell, and is crying about everything, and telling the monsters to come get him. Like, fuck it, I'll take the crazy death. And then in comes the motherfucking army, saving the day. So he basically just killed his son and everybody for no reason, minutes before. It's heart fucking breaking, like literally shattering. Um, so yeah, with that though, I gave this movie 4 out of 5 stars. Um, one for watchability. It's fucking Stephen King, so duh, right? 2 for killer fear factor because there was multiple monsters and like there was like this one of the scariest outside of the big tentacle thing that we don't fully get a chance to see is like these spider things. Oh, like I at this age and this point of my life, my arachnophobia isn't as intense as it was growing up, but it was pretty intense at some point for me. So it's like, um, these otherworldly kind of fucking spiders were a whole nother thing, and like, I could not, man. um, the other one that I gave it is story creativity because of course it's Stephen King. And then the last one that I gave it is kill count because it's kind of almost an unknowable number, but even from what we saw, it got some fucking work done. Like this mist, these monsters did a nice little fucking number on everything. So yeah, definitely check out The Mist if you have not. It's again just overall really really good movie. Shout out to Stephen King really quick too as an inspiration. Thank you so much for all the work that you have done and continue to do. It is truly, truly appreciated. Thank you guys so much for listening. That was my top 5 Stephen King films and my Miss review. Definitely follow the Instagram page for the pod, Man of Horror _podcast. And don't forget to like, rate, subscribe, and or comment. And until next time, stay spooky, folks. Peace.